In this video, we'll be discussing the general rules about thinking maps. Each map has its own rules, but there are also rules that span all 8 maps, and those are the rules that we're going to be talking about in this video. Some teachers might be asking, why have rules? The reason is because thinking maps is a common language. Just like English is a common language used in our school, thinking maps should be a common language used in our school. We use English the same way in all classes. Thinking maps should be used the same way in all classes as well. The first rule is do not change the maps. Thinking maps is a language and therefore should not be changed from classroom to classroom. I gave you 2 examples of how English is changed from one to the other. One is correct English and the other is incorrect English. If we use the maps one way in one classroom and a different set of maps in another classroom, then we're defeating our purpose. Our purpose is to have 8 maps that are common throughout all 4 classes or all classes that the student will be taking. If we use different maps and different ways of drawing the maps and add different shapes and add different diagrams into the map, then we're defeating our own purpose. Changing the maps is like creating your own language that the students do not know. The students would be using the maps correctly in the other classrooms, and if you change the maps, then they'll be using them incorrectly in your classroom. It would be like teaching in a completely different language. It'd be confusing for the teacher and also for the student. Another important point is that you should not be grading the thinking maps for accuracy. The thinking map process is not an end product. Instead, the students should use the thinking maps in creating an end product, such as a writing to win or some other summarizing activity that can be graded. The only way that you could use the maps in a grading process, or should be using them in a grading process, is maybe in a participation or daily grade, counting as 10%. Now this rule is very important. Do not hand out templates. If you hand out templates, then the student is restricted only to that template. You should never print out templates of thinking maps and have the students fill it in. Instead, make sure that the students are drawing the thinking maps themselves and using them to the best of their ability. Some students might have 20 things on there and another student might have 5. That's okay, but if you have one with just 5, then the student that would do 20 is restricted to 5. Vice versa, if you have 20, the student with only 5 things feels inadequate, feels like their project isn't as good, and we don't want students to feel that way. So be sure that you're not creating worksheets for them using the thinking maps for them to just fill in. Be sure you're having the students draw the thinking maps and fill it in themselves. Handing out templates is like telling the students to write an essay and then giving them a Mad Libs. It just doesn't work. It restricts the students in what they can write and say.